Hello. Grace Boji once again from Boji Farms. Are you new to our channel? Please do not forget to subscribe. And please leave us a comment. This is the only way we know that you are really watching our videos. And please do not forget to hit on the notification bell every time our video loads so that you can be able to be notified. Guys, we always talk about quarantining animals. What does quarantining animals mean exactly? Some of you are wondering, it is like a Spanish word. What does quarantining animals mean? I also got to know the word of quarantining when I started livestock farming. But prior to that, I had no idea about what quarantine was all about. For those of you who are watching me and you are wondering what is quarantine, you are hearing it for the first time. Ekigambo quarantine kitegeeza ki? So quarantine in simpler terms in layman's language, this is the act of isolating goats on a farm. If especially you have gotten them from another area or another farm, isolate them from the rest of the goats to prevent the spread of new infections, to prevent the spread of new worm infestations on your farm, infections, diseases, etc. So basically when you quarantine, you are preventing your animals on the farm from catching the infections, from catching the worms that have come with the other new goats on that farm. Some of us have not been quarantining our goats because we didn't know. And actually we do not have a quarantine area. On every livestock farm anywhere in the world, they have quarantine areas. What is stopping you from having a quarantine area? Every farm must have a quarantine area. Please make sure it is a must. However much, even if your area is so small, create room where you can have a quarantine area for your animals. Because if you have no quarantine area on your farm, this topic is not going to be good for you. It means you are not quarantining. At any one time, farmers are always buying in animals from other farms, restocking and stocking at any one given time. So if you're one farmer who is always stocking animals, you need a quarantine. Be it your goats, be it sheep, be it cows, be it anything. Even if it is a poultry farm and you're bringing in animals from another area, they need to be quarantined first, okay? I first learned about the word quarantining when I was my first time to import goats from South Africa. And the mandatory days we are supposed to quarantine the goats from South Africa to Uganda, on the permit, on the animal permit, they put 21 days. So I had to learn, to search, I had to quarantine. For starters, as a farmer, especially if you're a livestock farmer, the quarantine area must be at least 300 meters away from your main herds. I'm going to show you the meters between my quarantine and where my goats are. Why? Remember, there are infections that travel so fast, especially by air, like PPR or strokepox. Especially if you put your quarantine so near your main herd, you would have not done anything if you keep it near. And still remember, when you isolate these goats, give them their everything. Let them have their own feeds. Let them have their own water source. It does not make sense at all for you to isolate the goats. At the end of the day, your main herd at the farm plus the goats you isolated, they are drinking from the same water source. They are eating from the same places. It means infections can always be passed on from where they feed from the water troughs, from sharing of feeds. So if it is isolation, let it be isolation. Keep them from very far away from each other. And usually this isolation, the recommended one is usually 30 days. But for us, what we usually do, especially during the dry season, and we happen to buy goats in the dry season, we usually quarantine them for at least a minimum of 2 weeks. But the recommended time should be between 21 to 30 days of quarantining your goats. So what happens in this quarantining when you have isolated these goats alone on their own and you don't want them to mix them in your main herd? So in this quarantine, when you put the goats there, this is when the health checks start. Start looking out for any signs of illnesses. What are these signs of illnesses? For example, goats in the quarantine, some of them may have diarrhea. Others may have nasal discharge, that is the mucus. Others may start coughing. Others may have pneumonia. So use your observational skills and also use a veterinary official to help you observe these new goats you have just brought in your quarantine area. Remember guys, I told you the isolation period should be between 21 to 30 days. But in the dry season, like us who are in the cattle corridor, you can isolate the goats for 2 weeks to 21 days. Reason being, in those 2 weeks, if there is an infection that has come with those goats, in those 2 weeks, it is enough for them, for them to manifest the infection you may be protecting your herd against. You can be able to notice that maybe these goats came with a lot of pneumonia, or maybe these goats came with a lot of, they came with a high worm burden. How do you know that your goats are having a high worm burden, especially if they are quarantined? You check out the manure, the goat dung, you check out their eyes, you check out their body score. Sometimes when goats have diarrhea, it could be a sign that where they have been coming from, they never deworm. Like us who get goats from areas like Rushere, Kazo, those people, I'm not trying to demean, but it's known, those people from Rushere and everywhere, they never deworm their goats. They think deworming goats is a waste of resources. So if you have bought goats like from areas Liantonde, Kazo, Rushere, Sembabule, ensure that you deworm your goats at all cost. And also, where farmers get it wrong, you may have gotten goats or anywhere else, and these farmers assured you have vaccinated these goats. But NACCHO says they never vaccinated. Remember, some of our farmers, they don't know the difference between vaccination and routine treatment. So ensure at all costs you vaccinate against Clostridios, you vaccinate against PPR, stroke pox, you vaccinate against brucella, you also vaccinate against caprine pneumonia. These 4 infections are very key in isolation or when you're quarantining your goats. Please quarantine at least in the next 30 days. You should have vaccinated at least 2 main infections, especially pox, stroke PPR, and Clostridios in that time for isolation. In our quarantine area, also ensure that you separate the equipment you use on your farm. What are some of these equipments? For example, syringes. You find you have isolated goats, but the medicines and the syringes, the boots, the everything you are using in your main herd, they are the ones also working in the quarantine area. These must be unique, they must be disinfected to ensure that you are not transferring the infections from the quarantine area to your main herd. Guys, let's normalize disinfecting our equipments. Let's normalize disinfecting our goat houses. Let's normalize disinfecting everything we use on our farms. In this, when you disinfect, you kill a number of germs that would have caused havoc on your herd. And lastly, also ensure that you are in touch with your veterinary official. These guys are there. Please give them work. Give them work. Make them busy. Most of them are at the district doing nothing, literally doing nothing. Sometimes I always quarrel with these people that you try to call them on your farm. At the end of that day, they are somewhere giving animal permits because they are going to earn more from an animal permit than coming to the farm to treat somebody's animal. Please ensure you utilize them and give them money. Give them money. When they ask money, please give it to them so that you entice them to come back and always be helping you. I, for one, I use veterinary officers from Chotera district. The Rakai ones, I failed on them. Every time I would call on them, they would not come. I always use Chotera young men. They always come. Every time I have a challenge, and I always call them where they need to be. So in this area of quarantine, prior to setting up a quarantine area, make sure you consult them. They will help you design a plan of a quarantine area, what is needed there, what shouldn't be there, all that they will help you. That's all I had for you guys. Grace Boji, once again from Boji Farms. If you are new to our channel, please give us that subscription, and also Do not miss out the ads when they come. That's the only way we can earn something to continue giving you these videos as Boji Farms. That's all I had for you guys. Bye-bye.